Okay, so this week I'm doing the segmenting and pre-training principle. So the segmenting principle is to break down complex information into bite-sized segments. Hence, complex lessons are broken into smaller parts that are presented one at a time. Okay, so these are my two examples. One is tying a knot, and the other is just using a hammer basically. So the first one, it breaks down the steps to tie a knot. It uses two different colors to separate the string. Simple graphics, but I say it's slightly confusing. Let me go back and explain why I think this. So it is really nice that they use two different colors so you can tell which is which. And it kind of uses natural visual, how the eye flows so you can tell which step is which, like this is the first, this is the last. The reason why I say it's confusing is because I don't know where the end and the beginning of the strings are, and I don't know which way you're supposed to be pulling them at all. Like, this reminds me of when you're doing origami and you have the like paper folding instructions and you don't know which way you're supposed to fold it, which way it's supposed to come from. So it's really confusing. I feel like I might tie it correctly, but might not at the same time. Because it's just, there's no arrows of which direction either. It's just very confusing to me. Um, and then the second example, numbers are used to show the steps. It's a simple graphic again. Positioning the image doesn't change much, and it's a focus on the task. So basically, his like the table stays in the same place. What he's hitting doesn't really move. His body doesn't really move. The only thing that's really moving is the positioning of his arm and the hammer. So you can really see that motion they want you to imitate. So it's really nice kind of a flow. It's really easy to digest for your processing system. Okay, so the pre-training principle. It ensures that learners know the name and characteristics of key concepts before they learn something. Okay, so I have two different examples. The first one is of a microscope, and it's obviously for a lab. It kind of labels all the key terms on the microscope, the different parts of the microscope, and then it gives simple instructions of what you're doing. Um, and the second one is different workouts. So it kind of uses a numerical key and it tells you each workout. Okay, so the first example, like I said, it identifies parts of the microscope. It explains how to use the microscope. The key concepts and terms are identified, and it's good for visual learners. I really like it because if you would take away completely this image and terms and only had this separate, and you didn't know what the parts were to the microscope, it might be really hard to carry out the task. So I kind of like both of them together. It's really great for visual learners, in my mind. Okay, so the second one uses simple graphics, uses a numerical key, identifies a workout, and arrows show the movement. Um, what I think is a really strong point of this is again, you kind of like arrows to show the movement of which way you're going, and there's kind of this light gray outline of the same image, so you can see like the full position. Um, so again, it's really great visually. You can really see what it's supposed to look like. The only thing is, I think they had enough room to put the names of the workout with the image. But I think it is good in the sense that it declutters and it separates, so it's organized feeling. But I feel like they had enough room to do so. I also think it's weird that only one is different from the rest. I don't think it impacts you in any way learning, but I think it's odd that doesn't match the rest. Okay, so applying these principles. So Pre-training user is best used when teaching complex ideas. So if something is really complex, it's great to break it down. That's great for my site because I think some of the things I'm teaching may be slightly complex, so it's great to keep in mind. Visual keys are useful for pre-training. Again, going back to the microscope, I really like that graphic. I think it made the pre-training principle in that case because it was great for visual learners. And it's nice to identify what you're doing. And then to make sure to label steps or use natural visual flow when utilizing the segmenting principle. So I feel like you need to make sure that when you break things up, it's in a logical order when people know where it's going to start and end. Because if you don't get that right, then it's really confusing for the learner. And it is necessary to include text with visuals when using segmenting principle. So again, it's going back to that rope graphic for me. I just really was confused what was going on. So like including more visuals like arrows to explain which way to pull it, or just including text to explain what's going on would be really helpful because that was really confusing to me. So that is it for this video.